today's page I have two photos that were taken at one of our favorite restaurants that we go to when we're on vacation. And it's called Truffles. It has this little pig for a mascot, and it's good little mascot because you feel like a little pig when you come out of there after you've had all that wonderful food. The restaurant is decorated in a kind of modern decor, so I chose these papers from the All About a Boy collection from Echo Park. These were really easy to pick. They came out of the first drawer that I went into, and they had the right colors and the right style, and I got lucky on those. As you'll see in a moment, the embellishments were more of a challenge. Let's take a look at the sketch. I'm going to arrange the photos in this sort of L shape with the journaling here and then a title across the top. The title's pretty long, so it'll go all the way out. I have some paper strips here where I'll utilize some of these papers and some matting, and that I may use the cardstock for the mat. I haven't decided whether I'm going to use the cardstock or one of the designer papers. I have brads here. Again, that went quickly through my stash, finding a couple of brads that matched. The challenge were embellishments. I went through everything, and I could not find any food-oriented embellishments except fruits and vegetables and cakes and pie, or cakes and cupcakes and things, and nothing that really went with the subject of this particular layout. And I could have done some designs that would have emulated the modern feel for the page, but I really wanted to do something food related. So I kind of went back to my roots. I pulled out these Polaroid frames from Maya Road. I've used these before where I've put pattern paper in them, and you could put little pictures in there, but I didn't have any pattern paper that worked. So back in the 90s, when I first started scrapbooking, in the early 90s, there may have been a scrapbooking hobby and there may have been stickers and stuff, but if there were, I didn't know about it. I know they existed in the late 90s, but if they existed in the early part, I don't know about them. I didn't have them, and all I had was Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, my computer, and my old dot matrix printer, and my imagination. So I did a lot of word art and I did a lot of clip art. And that's what I'm doing with these. I've printed out 3 clip art images that I got out of Microsoft PowerPoint. It's a lot easier today because when you go out to PowerPoint, you want to insert clip art, it goes out to the internet and it brings you all these choices. And so I've printed these out, and I'm going to put them in the little frames. Those are the ones I had. And I may do some other things with them as well, but this will give me some themed embellishment that works with what I've got, and rather than having to go out and try to find something that is food related. So there's my product, except for my thickers. I've got lots of those because, again, it's going to be kind of a long title. So let's get started on the page.
My first step is to decide what I'm going to place my photos on. I have this yellow paper from the All About a Boy collection that I'm considering. I also have some cardstock that matched really well, and I'm leaning towards using the cardstock. I am going to be printing my journaling on that, and perhaps using the yellow paper along with the orange and the teal in the strips at the bottom and the top of the page. And I may leave the yellow out altogether, still kind of working that out. So for now, let's move on to the layout, or to the title. I have this word "and" that I'm going to need to paint. And I want to pick some other letters, though, first, so I'll know what color to paint it. The title is fairly long, so I'm going to need some kind of small letters. And I also would like to have something to match this teal color if possible. I have a couple of choices here, and I end up with this more metallic type of color there, the bluish green color metallic. Those letters are a nice different font than the rest of the things. And they match really good, and they also kind of go with that theme of the restaurant being more contemporary. So it looks like the color I don't really have in the title is the orangey color. Just filing off the edges of the letters before I paint them that orange color. And what I do for the inside of O's and P's and that kind of thing is use scissors if there are any extra little bits of chipboard that I need to get out. So I've painted them the light orange color, and I want to stamp them with some type of geometric stamp. I have these from Lawn Fawn. This is the interlocking backgrounds. I love these stamps. They stamp really well. And I have a rust color that I can use. I start out lining these up here and trying to stamp all 3 letters at one time, but that doesn't work out so good to go back over the bottom of the A, but I'm still trying. And I quickly decide that I just need to do them 1 letter at a time, that I'll get a better result that way. I've got plenty of ink on the stamp, so I don't have to keep re-inking it for every stamping. Okay. And that gets some interesting visual dimension to the letters. I'll be printing my journaling on this cardstock, so I need to know how far over and how far down to position it for the printer. It's in, I think it's right, still in its 8.5 by 11 form, so I'm just marking how far down and how far over, and then how far over on the side I can go with my printing, and I'll use those for my margins in my word processor. Now with my ClipArt, I'd like to add a little bit of color to it. I printed this out with my inkjet printer, so I have to be careful when I'm using these water-based markers that the black doesn't run. Can't do a lot of coloring here, but I can add a little bit. If I had Copics, I could do a lot of shading and things. I don't really need to add a lot of color, just a little bit to make the ClipArt a little more interesting and a little more like it was purchased rather than something I printed. Also, it will match the papers a little bit better that way too. Get the frames around these here and then mark how where they are or where they need to be cut. So I can trim out my ClipArt and then just glue it to the frames. You could use some type of chipboard frame or something you cut with a die cutter. And I'm just trimming these out with scissors. And have a rough trimming out, and then just gluing the frame on with the Monotombo liquid glue. And there you have customized embellishment. It's easy to get a little too much glue on these because you don't need very much. I found the best thing to get extra glue out with is just a corner of a piece of cardstock. And here are my 3 designs with the right theme and the right colors for the page. And they're ready to go on there. I spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out the order they need to go in. I'm not really trying to have them in a particular order as far as the story is concerned. It's more the size of those frames and what's going to look good aesthetically. So I just play with them quite a bit. I'm also getting my brads out here. I use a lot of my Mind's Eye brads. I buy them when Peachy Cheap does a special where they have 4 or 5 packs for a certain price. That's usually a good deal, and they go with everything. I'm using them here, of course, with Echo Park paper. So. All right, now then what order to put the papers in and how much of each one should show. I end up putting that blue-green in the middle and having that sort of diamond pattern to be the center. So I have them trimmed out here and about ready to glue down. But I do need to do the matte around the middle. And I have both brown and black on the page, and I'm just debating about whether to do a dark brown matte or to do a black matte that would match the lettering at the top and the clip art. And I decided on the black matte. It really works well to offset the photos. I also need to put a date sticker on, and I'm using the Dear Lizzie roller stamp. I think this is one of the original ones. There are lots of different ones. Different companies I think have these now. But I use a marker to mark mine, and even with the marker you have to kind of roll it when you stamp, and sometimes you still don't, or I don't get a perfect stamp. When I don't, then I'll just, as you'll see here, use the fine point of the marker to fill in the rest of the date. And that finishes up the date stamp, and there's our layout. And I was really pleased with how these papers with their contemporary look give you the impression of the restaurant. The restaurant serves sort of Southern cuisine. It's kind of different from its look, the kinds of wheat meatloaf and chicken pot pie and things like that when we go there. But it has a very contemporary look, and I think the layout gives you that impression when you're looking at it, so it sort of takes us back to being at that restaurant. Here's the sketch where we have one vertical and one horizontal photo with the journaling tucked in above the horizontal photo, and the title I had to spread it out to get everything in. A little bit of paper at the top and the bottom. You could use washi tape instead, and you could substitute other embellishments for the little frames and still have a very similar layout. And I really liked how the mat came out to pull all this together and kind of accent that center section so much. So here are the close-ups. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll check out my blog for more information.